And I'm gonna get as much of this out of the way. So I unfortunately I have hard shell tacos for dinner. So I'm
That's a
gonna get as
great
much of
dinner for a podcast night.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get as
right in
much of
front of
this
the
out of the way
microphone.
during the cold open as possible.
I'm just going to use that as the cold open. Just Josh crunching for 30 seconds.
Get more into the mic when you're doing it. Now, we're not, like, when you bite into the taco, like, you got to get in the mic.
I still heard a pretty good crunch from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sound we want. ASMR that shit. All right, everybody quiet. He's going in again.
Did you put taco sauce on that? Because without fire sauce, I don't know what you're doing.
Not fire sauce, but there's like a taco ranch sauce that one of the condiment companies makes that we've been buying for a couple years. It's pretty good. But yeah, we really got to juxtapose or mash up those things together, talking about taco eating and crunching and Brian's declaration of, all right, everyone be quiet, he's going in again.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Here it comes.
No, I feel like I can't eat. You guys are so weird. I'm gonna turn my camera. Just after I did all this work, I'm gonna turn the camera off for the next 5 minutes. Jesus Christ.
Even better. Just black screen and we just hear you crunching. That's all we need.
We don't need to see
That's
it.
all we need. Let us imagine what's happening.
It'll be like the after credit scene in Avengers with the shawarma.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bright Guy into Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is Andy No Notes Stoles.
What's up, podcast people? I have no notes.
Next up, when he's unable to cast Ava Kedavra, he resorts to killing people with a garden hose, Josh Zorch.
Seems pretty par for the course.
Next up, if you see this nickname, we're going to see if this nickname sticks. But around here, we might just call him Atomic Braps, Mike Bradley.
Atomic what?
Braps.
You know what? I didn't have to leave the call, so it's good enough.
And finally, our very own Satchel, because I still have no idea whose side he's on, Ian Leidick.
One who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be seized.
What?
Do you want to try that again?
No, I nailed it.
We'll listen to it in playback. We force everyone to listen to the podcast afterwards to see what he's just said there.
That came through crystal clear. I just listened to it.
All right, so top of the show, I've been trying to give everybody a better chance at plugging anything that they want to have coming up or have going on before we jump into the episode on the whole. So just going around the horn. Andy, anything to plug?
You can find me on Twitter at thedruid79, THEDREWID 79.
Josh, anything to plug?
No.
Okay. Mike, anything to plug?
Yeah, you can find me in the chat of twitch.tv/partybone in the Party Bone Zone a couple nights a week. I'm in the chat there. You can talk to me. It's awesome. I am definitely the highlight there. Getting to converse with me is amazing. So stop in and do that. And then hop out and go follow Rare Achievements. And then just come back and chat with me in there, and it'll be all good.
Yeah, don't chat with him on his own stream. Chat with him on another stream. Ian, anything
Gotta
to
go where
plug?
the viewers are. So you can follow me on Twitter at Sir Partybone. That's Sir with an I. And I'm on twitch.tv/Partybone, where the elf known as Partybone, who is not me, he is from Elftopia, and he's always playing video games. He's mostly playing worse, and he plays Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, never. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, that is where you can find him. And he might be banning someone from the chat at this rate. Come check out and see if that happens.
Well, shit happens.
As far as other stuff for where you can find me, I'm on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all Jedi Bry Guy. If you want to find me on the socials and all that stuff. All the
You on Facebook Gaming?
No, I never made the leap to Facebook gaming. I would have stuck to Mixer, but I'm not going to Facebook gaming.
And that's Jedi with an I and Bry with a Y, correct?
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Just to help those
I know
that
it's
can't
got
spell.
a nice ring to it. I should keep bringing that back every time too.
Oh
I'll
my
try to
god,
remember
you
that next
spell
time.
your name with a Y? It's so hot.
I do. Oh, I remember that is an inside joke between Andy and I from way back when.
Way back.
Well, now it's an
Yeah,
outside
literally-
joke among all of us.
Yeah, no, there was literally a girl that's what she told me. Literally.
Yeah.
It's so hot that I spell my
Was
name with
this
a Y.
during like
Yeah.
the era of people saying that's hot or something? Or
Yeah,
was-
yeah. So that's how
Oh,
long ago it
okay.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hoping it was more recent because it would just make less sense, but I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah,
You replied, "Man's not hot."
sure.
That's a popular song. Get up with the culture, fucking boomers.
All right, so on tap for this episode. Obviously, we're doing another Rewind Theater if you made it this far. But if you are new to this series, we are basically using this as an excuse to go back, revisit some old comic book movies that we either haven't seen or haven't seen for a while. We curated a pretty expansive list of movies to watch, so to take some of the pressure off of us, we leave it up to the Wheel of Fate
Wheel of Fate!
to pick what movie we're watching next.
Nailed it.
The wheel always consists of 2 franchises and 4 standalone movies at a time. So at the end of the episode, we will spin the wheel to see what we got next. At the end of our last Rewind Theater episode for Watchmen, the wheel landed on 2017's Atomic Blonde, which is what we are talking about today. On the last few episodes of Rewind Theater, we've changed up the format a bit. So, I mean, if you're new to this, you don't realize we changed it up. But if you've been here since the beginning, this is our 10th episode, so somewhere around 7, I think, 7 or 8 episodes in, we decided to change it up a bit. So we're going to start with trying to go through some of the comic book history for the movie we're on, since they're all based on comic books or graphic novels of some sort. After that, we'll talk about some of the people that were involved in transitioning that property into a movie. We'll go over budgets, box office ratings, if it's a first-time watch or rewatch for all of us. At that point, I'll probably throw out the spoiler alert. We'll do 60-second summary. Then we'll deep dive into the movie with the 5 categories we have going: directing, characters and actors, story, soundtrack, special effects, and explosions. We give ourselves 10 minutes for each of those topics just to try to keep us on track. And then once we get through all that, we'll get to the rating at the end of the movie, sort of what we give it. See, and then try to ask each other too if it holds up. You know, the movie's only 4 years old, but we're gonna ask it anyway. And then after all that, we finally, again, end with Wheel of Fate to figure out what we're watching on the next Rewind Theater so we know what to prepare for, hopefully 2 weeks from now. So, starting with the comic book background, which is where Josh tries to lead us in, he's going to take us to school and teach us a little bit something about the comic book.
All right. Welcome to class, everybody. There's actually not a whole lot, unfortunately, to share about the background of the book. Unlike some of the other movies we've watched that been based on properties. Like Watchmen comes to mind. Obviously, that came out in the 80s. Movie's not made till 2009. Both of these, both the source material and this movie are fairly new, but definitely still some there that we can learn about. So the movie Atomic Blonde itself is based on a 2012 graphic novel that is called The Coldest City. It's written by British writer Anthony Johnston, who's also the author of the Wasteland series some people might be familiar with, and it is illustrated by Sam Hart. I have personally not yet been able to read the book. I did try to get it before we hit this episode, but I was unable to find it anywhere in time. But from what I've seen from online images, if anyone has ever read the actual Sin City series of books by Frank Miller, it's a basically same kind of artistic style. It's just black and white, inks there to tell the story. I don't believe any of the book is really in color. And after seeing the movie and then kind of finding that out in the research, I think that's, I don't know if that's a deliberate choice or not, but it actually, I find myself realizing that fits the style quite a bit. Kind of gives it more of a noir aesthetic to me. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. So now you said that, that makes a lot of sense for tone of the movie and what they were going for.
Yeah, definitely. And I am going to try eventually to get to that. for and for the reason I'm about to also tell you, not just for expanding horizons anyway, but there was a sequel published in 2016 called The Coldest Winter, which is potentially also in film development.
Yeah, okay.
So let's take half a step back and talk very quickly about just like source to movie transition. A few years prior to publication in 2012, Charlize Theron's production company, which is called Denver and Delilah Productions, were sent an unfinished version of the copy, a draft copy that was getting close to publication but was still getting finalized. By that point, Charlize personally had actually become quite impressed with the John Wick movie when it first came out. So once her company had become aware of The Coldest Cities publication and remembered that, and then saw what a film like John Wick could become, that led them to think that there's a good possibility to marry the two, which led her to David Leitch, who was, for all intents and purposes, a co-director, but is technically, I believe, an uncredited co-director of the first John Wick film. He has an extensive stunt action choreography and second unit directing background. And so if I remember, I think Atomic Blonde was, I think his first actual full solo main director gig. But he had such a good background in the industry and those things that, she felt he knew exactly how to bring this kind of property, to the screen. So I bring all that up to say that the sequel that might be in development, in April of 2020, the website discussingfilm.net reported that a sequel was in early development with Netflix. Charlize Theron will probably continue to act as a producer, as she did on this first film. And I would just like to throw out that this was sandwiched in the middle of her now 3 occasions in which she has taken on a comic book property. First was 2005's Aeon Flux, and then Atomic Blonde hits in 2017, and then just in 2020, The Old Guard hit Netflix as well. So she has both a history of producing comic book based properties with Netflix, and obviously now is coming from experience making Atomic Blonde movies. So potentially, in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe we will be lucky enough to see a sequel based on The Coldest Winter.
Is the Old Guard comic book movie? I don't think I realized that.
Yes, it was actually. So that and another film called Whiteout were written by the same author, and those are both on the whatever we've been calling it, the potential
Or extensive wheel.
Extensive wheel of fate. Yes, as I believe Aeon Flux probably should be at least 2. So all 3 of those could be coming up at some point on a future episode of Rewind.
Yeah, I forgot she was in Aeon Flux.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot that came out.
And I know it doesn't have anything to do with comic books, but she was in a superhero-esque movie as well with Will Smith, Hancock.
Hancock, that is true.
Hancock's a good fucking movie.
It is a good movie. I don't know that it was based on a comic book, but it definitely has that superhero vibe.
Yeah, if it was, I dropped the ball in putting the initial wheel together, so we'll find out and remedy that if need be. But regardless, hey, free plug for Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to add it to the wheel, no one will ever know it was never there to begin with. We'll just silently put it in after the fact.
Until we just admitted it.
I'll
right
cut
now.
this all out. It's fine.
Well, currently, it's either on the wheel or it's not. We don't know.
Yeah. All right, so transitioning from comic book to the film. So who brought it together for the film? Josh already mentioned David Leitch is the director. Stunt coordinator turned director. As Josh mentioned, one of his first gigs was John Wick, co-directed with Chad Stahelski. I looked that up too. I was almost positive that he was listed as co-director with that, but everything on like IMDb says he's uncredited for John Wick 1, which I could have sworn in the promotion they were both talking about how they directed it together. So I don't know why he's uncredited for the movie.
I thought I recall
Union.
that too. I don't know what changed over 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, so I don't know. But from there, he did Atomic Blonde. He did Deadpool 2. Hobbs and Shaw was another noticeable one that he did. He also apparently, I didn't realize this until looking at the IMDb, but there was the tie-in song from Celine Dion for Deadpool 2. Apparently he directed a music video for that. So,
Nice.
there's that. One that he's actually in pre-production on that I'm actually really excited about and have had my eyes on. He's attached to direct The Division for Netflix, which is based on the Ubisoft video game franchise and stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain, are still attached to that. I don't know when that movie's coming. It's just listed as pre-production, and I'm sure with everything else going on, it got delayed, but I'm looking forward to that. I think that should be cool. Screenplay for this movie was written by Kurt Johnstad, who doesn't have a lot of writing credits, but also wrote 300 and 300 Rise of an Empire. So he's got a little bit of comic background there.
And he's also worked with a legend, that means.
Yeah, it's true. He's got some Zack Snyder ties. See, we're segueing right in from Watchmen. It all makes sense. The movie stars Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, Sophia Boutella, John Goodman, Toby Jones, and one of the Skarsgårds. It's Bill this time. Cast is pretty good. Any guesses on film's budget? And Josh and I talked beforehand. Doing his research, he came across budget and worldwide box office, so we were removing Josh from the guesses for this.
I am abstaining.
So the other three, any guesses on the film's budget for 4 years ago, 2017?
70 million.
100.
We got a 70, 100.
40.
Ian's pretty damn close. 30 million
Oh, wow.
is the budget,
Hmm.
which I think is actually a lot cheaper than I thought.
Especially given the
Well,
talent.
There's
I
yeah.
think
a lot
Charlize
going on.
Theron is
Yeah.
probably free since it's her production company.
I don't know how that works. I think she'd have to get paid at some point.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well,
she can
yeah, but
accept
it might
a
not go
dollar.
into the budget.
Well, true. Okay, true. All right, so from $30 million budget, worldwide box office, what do you think we got out of Atomic Blonde?
289.
110.
289, 110. Ian?
95.
Mike was close. Ian got closer. 100 million.
Yeah!
100 million.
Haha!
Ah,
Huzzah!
So
Mike was off
off.
by 10. Ian beat you by 5.
I'm terrible at the prices right.
This is the one time I've done well on this. Except for Watchmen, when I correctly predicted 3 trillion for a worldwide box office.
That's true. It still holds the record. Nobody's touching
That's not even adjusted for inflation at this point.
it. Right. I mean,
I'm guessing 1 million from here on out.
Price is right all the way.
We'll wait for Swamp Thing 2.
Yeah.
you might be highballing it at a million.
Right.
Or something.
Actually, it's 780,000. Fuck.
You might be highballing.
They had to buy a new swamp boat.
Those are the expensive part of the movie. More swamp boats.
Everything else is just the footage from the first movie.
Cut in a different way. They just put it in a different sequence, hoping you don't really pay attention.
Be like, if 2 swamp boats explode, they'll never know it's the same film.
So yeah, out of the 100 million it made worldwide, it was split pretty evenly, domestic and international. 52 million domestic, 48 million international. So that's pretty right down the middle.
I don't know, is anyone else different? Like, initially when I saw that, I was surprised it was so low. Just because I think like Andy, I would have thought it would have been at least quite a bit higher. But then I had another reaction, which was, I don't know if the marketing really did well for the movie, and it didn't have a whole lot of buzz around it after it came out. So then that sort of made sense to me when I stopped to think about it again. But did that, like when Brian just told everyone it was 100 million, did that shake anyone, or does that, now that you're hearing it, does that sound about right?
I mean, I thought it was 289, so I thought it was low.
Yeah.
So
But you're right, Josh. Now that I think about it, like when I told Jess that that's the movie that we were going to be watching, she's like, I don't know what that is. So yeah,
And it was only 4 years ago.
Yeah, they obviously didn't market it that well.
Because I knew with it too, because it had it was also a female action-led movie, and I knew it made less than Ghost in the Shell. And Ghost in the Shell only did like 170, I think.
Oof.
Oh wow.
Of course, the budget
But
for
their
that I think
budget
had
was-
to be a lot bigger, right?
It was like over 100.
Okay.
So yeah, the budget was much higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say surprised, obviously. I guessed at 110. And for me, that's because you've got an R-rated action movie with somebody who is not really known as an action star, and nobody along for the ride that is known for an action star. You know what I mean? Like, James McAvoy is not known to be an action star. Sophia Boutella is not known to be an action... Like, you just don't... So you have, like, this, really good name with David Leitch, who really hadn't taken off yet attached to it, so it doesn't surprise me. I mean,
And it was trying to cash in on, like, I remember the trailer. It was trying to cash in off of John Wick.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
the trailer made me think, oh, this is female John Wick.
right.
Yeah. But no offense to Charlize Theron, she's not Keanu Reeves. I mean, at that time...
Yeah, she has a personality and can act.
Oh,
Yeah, but no. I'm talking about in terms of box office draw, and in terms of, at that time, Keanu was probably like red hot coming off of John Wick.
Well, yeah,
you've
John
got-
Wick 2 was actually a couple months prior to this too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like it was a tough movie to sell, I think.
Agreed.
I mean, she's coming off of like Mad Max though, and that made a shit ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And she was awesome in that.
And she was an action role in that too. Like, it's not like she didn't have the bank ability at that point. You're talking about the lady who was kind of the lead in making the new greatest Mad Max movie of all time.
Yeah, but did
and
Mad
she's
Max
like
was
make
award
just 2 years
nominated too,
prior.
like Academy
Like-
Award nominated
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
too.
Well,
No, I get that, but I'm saying, like, did Mad Max do gangbusters at the box office?
It killed, didn't it?
I thought it made a shit ton of money.
376 worldwide.
What worldwide?
376 million.
Oh, that's actually less than I expected.
For a movie that won Best Picture and
it did not win
and
Best
all
Picture.
that.
I mean, for a
being
film
as
winning
awesome
Best
as it
Picture,
is,
yeah. I mean, outside of Lord of the Rings, Best Pictures don't make gangbusters.
It did not win
I,
Best
I
Picture.
understand you're talking. You probably didn't watch or listen to like the top 10 of the decade. That movie's my number 1 of the decade. I'm aware.
No, I did not listen.
But I'm saying, like, I'm aware. Like, it's there, but it's not the same film. Like, it's not. Like, they're not even the same genre.
Well, I think something that you guys mentioned, I already though I think can explain why it happened is they were anchoring the marketing too much to make you feel like, hey, you guys have been loving those John Wick things. You love Charlize Theron. What if Charlize Theron was John Wick?
Yes.
And I'm going to spin that into maybe a different part of a discussion I know we're going to get to anyway, which is sort of my first impression. So this was a rewatch for me. And my first impression when I first saw the movie was, oh, so this had action approached and choreographed with John Wick style in mind, but the story is nothing like it.
Yeah.
And because of that, they were leaning into selling it of, think of John Wick, Charlize Theron is John Wick, think of John Wick, come see Charlize Theron be John Wick. So because of that, I think they didn't sell it in terms of what the story could have been, and so therefore it felt like weaker marketing and was a bit more forgettable at the time.
And it should have been marketed as, come see this Ethan Hunt. She's more Ethan Hunt than she is John Wick. So they could have sold it more the way they sell a Mission Impossible movie and probably did better.
Yeah, I think
been
that's
more
probably a good
accurate.
point. I think the marketing was all, she's an assassin like John Wick, and no, she's a spy. So there's you're going in thinking I want John Wick, and it's not a John Wick movie.
No.
All right, so for critic ratings and all that stuff, Rotten Tomatoes right now, critic rating 78%, audience rating 64%. So they're similar, they're close. Metacritic is at 63, user score is at 6.7. So they are also pretty close. It might be the closest I think we've seen Metacritic scores, 63 and 6.7.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about the scores? Agree, disagree?
They're fine.
Mostly agree.
Yeah,
Andy?
Yeah, they're
Mostly
they're
agree, I
in the
guess.
they're in the vicinity. Yeah.
Okay. Josh already mentioned it's a rewatch for him. Mike, first viewing or rewatch?
Rewatch.
Andy,
This is a first.
Ian,
Rewatch.
rewatch.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, this is a rewatch for me. So Andy's our Atomic Blonde virgin for this one.
We're never gonna all have seen these movies.
You think? I feel like we've got to
It's,
somewhere.
it's
we've all
gonna
seen
take
them, right?
until the first MCU. That's
Wait,
gonna be
we
the
had
only
all
one.
seen the Turtles, hadn't we?
Oh yeah. I wish
he
I
says
did.
so dismissively.
Just
Remember how much that sucked? I do.
Oh, don't even go down that rabbit hole. No.
Like none of those jokes.
That
meant
is going to be the
anything.
goal of
There
the
was a
entire
rapist
run
in
of
the movie.
Rewind Theater is to not bring up Ninja Turtles so that Ian can shit on it.
Yeah, the Turtles 2 one is going to be very interesting, I think.
We'll never see it.
Wheels
all right,
landing on
so-
it tonight now. You
Yeah,
know
you just jinxed
it's
it.
coming.
All right, so I think it's the time of the show where we will get into the discussion portion. And since we'll be discussing everything in the movie, I'm going to throw out the spoiler alert. So if you have not seen Atomic Blonde and do not want to be spoiled, pause this now, come back to us after watching the movie. If you'd rather just keep listening, see what we go over, and if you'd rather want to check out the 60-second summary we got going on, you can keep listening. Last call for spoilers.
Spoiler. Spoiler. Something like that.
All right, so with our new format, it seems like a good way to kick off being into the spoiler section is to give us the 60-second summary. So if you've listened to the past few episodes, we've done this. Ian has taken the last few 60-second summaries and gone above and beyond what we ever really thought that little bit would be. Mike has volunteered for this one. I hear this will be a lot shorter than 60 seconds.
I could draw it out. I could really overplay it and draw it out if you want.
And maybe we can see how many times you can get through it in 60 seconds.
Nah, because that's asking me a speed talk, and that's not.
Either way,
Who do you think
Mike,
he is? The Micro Machines guy?
Yeah, I'm
60.
like, I'm not. You know.
60 seconds on the clock, go for it.
So to take up some of these 60 seconds, I'm going to explain first that I made a haiku for this, and this is what this is going to be. So a haiku, if you don't know, is a short poem that is consisting of 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables on the second line, and 5 syllables on the third line. So we're going to get this whole movie in on that. Here we go. Satchel. Who are they? Triple Agent. Well played, girl. Fucking love Berlin. And that's the summary.
32 seconds, not bad.
There you go.
That is not bad.
Josh is still digesting.
Like the words are going through my head, and I'm thinking about it, like that's like again, you'd have to have already like kind of known the story for the meaning to sink in and whatnot. But that's pretty good.
Well, I mean, we're in the spoiler section, so we're assuming people that are listening
This
now
is
have either
true.
seen it or don't care.
This is true.
So,
Nice job.
Kudos, well done.
Yeah.
thank you.
Haiku ready, motherfucker.
Andy's like, when it's my turn, I ain't doing shit. I'm reading you 60 seconds of something.
Now, Andy's got to do the Micro Machines thing now, right?
Oh yeah,
That's got to
I
be
can
his
do
summary.
that.
Is
Yeah.
the Micro Machines guy.
What about my entire backlog of podcasts makes you think
No, the
I'm
best
capable
the best
that?
of this is going to be,
That cold open where you did the Micro Machines thing.
yeah, that was not edited whatsoever. There were no effects laid in there at all. It was just Andy
Zero.
talking
Yeah,
very
I
high.
was there when we recorded it.
I don't even remember
Like-
that.
My favorite cold open.
It's probably not even available anywhere. It's like it's before 50. I think I feel like we did that before 50. So that's got to be like
It's in
gone
one
out
of
of
the best
rotation.
ofs.
Oh, see, I might just have to re-upload that episode just to get that beginning back in because that's still one of my favorite openings.
Just pull it and use it again. Just take that and make it a cold open again.
Yeah, for one that we suck at the beginning for the preamble, we'll just repurpose the old one. All right, so we're gonna get into our topics. We got our 5 topics: direction, story, characters and actors, soundtrack, and special effects and explosions. We're gonna get 10 minutes on the clock for each of those topics. Any volunteers for where we want to start? Josh, where would you like to go first?
Soundtrack and score.
All right, soundtrack it is. You're on the clock. Go for it.
This is how you freaking do a soundtrack when you set something in historical times of the 1980s. Warner
mind, for anyone that
Brothers.
Did not listen to our Wonder Woman 1984 review. There was some big discrepancies between Josh and I, at least, that it did not capitalize on the 80s setting for the soundtrack. And I had the same thought, Josh, that you did. That it was one of my first notes. This is how you do a fucking 80s soundtrack for a movie.
This was great.
To be fair, they had access to 5 more years of the 80s to be historically accurate. It's 89 and Wonder Woman's 84. I mean, that's half a decade.
So
that they're
only
missing.
only 2 songs occurred from 1980 to 1984.
Yeah.
I'm not defending Wonder Woman. I
That's
shit on
it.
it with you. Let's not.
So, all right. So I really leaned into this. I tried. I mean, well, the contrast to Wonder Woman 84 also didn't help that this movie too leads off with Blue Monday.
Mhm.
So it like
Which was in the promotions for Wonder
Yes.
Woman 1984.
so that could not have been more stark. So I went really kind of deep dived as much as I could on the composer. So Tyler Bates is someone that we've been talking about a lot recently without me really realizing it. He was the composer for
Wait, wait.
Watchmen.
Oh, I was going to say, I think, doesn't he do some of the Fast and Furious too?
He might. I didn't jot those down in my notes, but this style of scoring, not really like the orchestral score and stuff, but the style of melding pop music into certain kind of movies, he has a really big resume in. He, like I just said, he was part of Zack Snyder's Watchmen. He's the composer on Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
That I did know too. Yeah.
He continued with this director over to Deadpool 2. Not maybe as much with the pop culture, but just for fun fact, he is the composer on Netflix's Punisher seasons.
Yeah, okay.
And he also continued to work with the other guy from John Wick, and he's done that trilogy for them. A little fun
Has he
fact.
done other Marvel movies?
He
I
worked
feel like
with
I've
Zack
seen him.
Snyder, Ian, on Sucker Punch.
Yeah, he's worked with Snyder a couple
There
of
you go.
times. I think specifically things like, again, like putting pop music together in movies helps, stands out much more in these other ones. But he was also the lead guitarist and main co-songwriter for Marilyn Manson for a couple of years too, which I thought was just interesting. Like recently,
Weird,
like
yeah.
2015 to 2017, 18, he was like on 2 of the albums and the touring guitarist. So dude is legit. He's got stuff.
He also worked on Pornucopia, Going Down in the Valley. Just a note.
And PG porn.
Everyone has to start somewhere.
I have no idea what that is, but it's a thing that's on.
So other than those quick points, I will say that they actually pick up Blue Monday again about maybe 20-25 minutes into the movie, and it's this different kind of arrangement again. And for a moment, I actually thought, oh wait, did I forget? Is Blue Monday sort of the motive used of this movie? And it made me think of how much Beethoven is used in Die Hard, and it pops up like 15 times in Die Hard in different ways. And I get disabused of that because it doesn't show up again. It's only twice. But again, the way that it's interweaved in to the scenery is just so good all around. And the one good choice of sound that I'll really also call out is the fact that during that whole fight in the stairwells during the protest parade when she's trying to get the informant out of the building and whatnot, there's no sound. There's not a song. There's no score, and actually the absence of sound, whether that's his choice, in collaboration with the director, whoever, like that was a really good move, I think. So just all around, both score and soundtrack, 18 thumbs up for this.
I think it was a good choice. I think they did well. I think maybe the proximity to discussing Wonder Woman and our disappointment with that soundtrack made this better than it actually is in my own head.
Possibly. That's fair.
Because I did make one note that bugged me about it, is that pretty much everything that they used is already overused in movies. I feel like I've heard and seen scenes with the same songs they used countless times before this, even.
I mean, it's not like
So-
they could have new music. It was from the 80s.
No, but I'm saying they could use lesser used music. You know what I'm saying? Like they could use less common things to hear. You know what I mean? We get 99 Luftballons. You get, Blue Monday's been overused recently. And pretty much just like every instance, I was just like, well, except for that reorganization on Blue Monday was like something I've heard before, feels like 1,000 times in a movie. That would be the only knock on it. The reason you hear them so often is because they're good songs. So there's a, a give and take with that.
Andy, you want to chime in?
I think they did a really good job of taking the 80s songs and putting them into places in the movie that they fit,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I feel like their placement of their chosen songs was very good. That being said, I not off the top of my head, I can't remember any actual theme to the movie aside from 80s songs.
Yeah, I feel like I
Just a
remember.
note, I can't remember any sort of like that's the Atomic Blonde theme. Like,
Yeah, I know there's some score behind the licensed music, and I remember liking that music that I heard. But like you said, I don't think there was a recognizable like this is a theme that's coming back and forth. It's just like moody synth stuff,
right.
which works for the movie. I was digging, but nothing recognizable there. I was definitely drawn more towards the licensed music. Ian, what do you got?
So Josh mentioned about them playing Blue Monday twice. So this movie did a lot of things with the number 2. A lot of things appear twice. 99 Left Balloons is played twice. David Bowie appears, like his songs from David Bowie are on there twice. There's a lot of things with 2, not just in the soundtrack, and I'll get those in the other category. So it was interesting to note how they mixed in that duality throughout the film, not just in song choice, but in other choices they made too, which really I thought brought that together. I didn't notice it in my first viewing. It's something I noticed here in the second viewing when I'm, looking for more things and I'm not just like zapped in. So I thought that was really cute of them to do. I really enjoyed it. I know we mentioned Andy mentioned the song placement just worked really well, and I think that also stands out, like we said with Watchmen. That was all done really well too. So, and another comic book film, another guy who worked with the greatest director of all time, doing the same song. So I think he really learned a lot from his time with Mr. Snyder.
Andy, I did not pick up on the repetition of those things and like coming in couplets. Even now that you're saying it, it's not necessarily striking me as having any additional significant meaning, though. Do you think there was one behind it?
I feel like you said Andy, but I'll answer anyways.
Yes,
Um,
he did. I was like that. I don't know.
I have had too many tacos tonight.
I don't know if there was a deeper meaning behind it, because I think the overall thing I noticed first with it was the fact that she always wears black and white until the penultimate scene. Those 2 color choices, good and evil. So I think it's just they were doing 2s a lot in a sense that I think it's just a reoccurring thing that happened. I don't know if there's a deeper storytelling meaning to it. I think it's just maybe a theme they filled with, the good side, bad side, East, West Berlin, stuff like that. I don't know if there was necessarily a, hey, guys, the number 2 is our version of 23.
And it was a movie about double agents too. I mean,
Yeah.
Even what you guys just came up with, I couldn't have reached if I had to do a dissertation on this. So that's great.
The Machiavelli quote was about, it's double the fun to deceive the deceiver. They just played around with the 2 a lot.
Yeah, until you mentioned that, Ian, I did not. That went over my head too. So that's a good observation.
Yeah, no, because the one guy says you think you're good at the spy shit, I'm better twice. That Rush KGB guy says it twice.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's just things happen in 2s a lot in this, I noticed.
I feel like the one song, there's 2 songs for me that I think stick out in the soundtrack. Like Flock of Seagulls, I Run, Come On, right when she's trying to run away, which I was like, this is perfect. I'm digging it. Let's go. And the fucking George Michael song that they pick when they're getting ready for a fight scene. I don't know why, but I was like, this is fucking great. I love this. It fits so well
really-
to that scene for some reason for me.
I really liked they played London Calling when she was going to like Paris.
Yeah.
That was just I really enjoyed that. Like right on time.
Yeah, look at
Hell
that.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Good job, guys.
The last little note I will leave you with, just because I love this song, Tyler Bates co-wrote a song called "A Job to Do" with Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains for the John Wick 2 soundtrack, and you should go check it out because it's amazing.
I will keep that in mind. Mike, where would you like to go out of what's left? Direction, story, actors, characters, explosions, special effects.
Let's just go to explosions since I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion to be had
Okay.
there.
Special effects, explosions. 10 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
Was there any like technical explosions here?
No, there were none, so
Okay.
it gets a 0 out of 10.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I know we're at a 0 out of 10 explosions because there was none. In terms of special effects, the makeup for Charlize Theron and like the damage she had done to her. You know what I mean? Like when she's like dropping herself into the bath of ice at the very first scene in the film, it's like, damn, they did good. It looked like somebody had been brutally beaten. It looked real. I mean, other special effects, I mean, car crashes are car crashes. Fights looked good. I didn't notice any problems. When the guy gets jabbed in the face with, I guess, the keychain,
Yeah.
whatever that is, that looked fine.
And by fine, you mean disgusting.
Yeah, I'm saying it didn't look fake. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't look...
You weren't like, hey, there's that extra skin there they inserted in.
Right.
You're like, that's in a man's cheek. That's pretty nifty looking. Wow. He's really taking that like a fucking champ, unlike the neck guy who's pissed off the whole film because his neck's a little creepy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did they really do any other major special effects here? I mean, it was mostly just practical and the effects worked. I guess they had to screen print the Jordache logo. Other than that.
Andy, you going to segue?
Yeah, I actually, segueing off of his car crashes, I really loved the special effects of her getting knocked into the river with the informant.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought they did a really good job of them being underwater, like struggling to breathe and trying to get out of the car. I thought they did a really good job on the special effects on that part.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you didn't feel like they were just in a deep pool on.
No, yeah, you actually were like, wow, like they're pretty uber fucked right now. Like,
Mhm.
like how's she gonna get them out of that? And then you're like, oh, she's not.
I think the movie does, and maybe it's, I don't know if it goes more with like direction, but I think there's a lot of instances in this movie that just feel very visceral.
Yeah,
Like sort of like Mike was saying with the makeup for her looking at Charlize being just beat the hell up. Like you just feel that from looking at her. The car crash in the water, you feel that when you're under there with them. The fight scenes that happen, you feel those punches. Especially the one Josh mentions where there's no music whatsoever. It's just them fighting. Like that, it just leans into that visceral nature of like what it would be like to be in these situations.
And they did that with the car crashes too. Like they would have to slow it down, no sound playing other than the crash itself.
Yeah.
And I did really like during them the one car crash where the car gets fucked by the truck and kind of goes in the air. Like you can see the back axle of the car falling off and shit. And it just like took it to the next level almost of a car accident. Like really seeing this car disintegrate from it. You know, like this car, there's no two takes. That car's fucked.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's something where like they got like if that was intentional, that's amazing. Or if they just got lucky when the cars
Mhm.
collided when they were doing it, who knows? But yeah, it looked fucking cool.
Yeah, $30 million
Like-
budget. You don't get enough to buy a second car to try that stunt again. You're one and done.
Like in the first scene when she gets picked up at the airplane and she purposely crashes the car and she goes to grab that seat belt, like you can feel almost that impact of like that desperation of holding onto it to like not get your neck fucked up. Like I walked away. I hated him. His haircut pissed me off. So speaking of, I guess it's special effects. I like the haircuts in this film. I thought everyone was period appropriate. They did a really good job getting those punk kids to get their fucking hair sticking up at right.
That's true.
Speaking of that crash that you just mentioned, Ian, when she manipulates the car and then like reaches for the seatbelt. I am pretty sure. I mean, maybe there's a lot of European construction and design that looks similar, but that exact crash, it really looks like the same exact spot where the like road chase scene in Civil War ends. When
Coming out of the tunnel with Black Panther and
yeah,
Cap.
and Cap, they all tackle each other and then get arrested. That looks like literally the exact same spot.
I will agree.
They do that a lot, though. I've seen things like you might not notice watching different films because it just doesn't occur to you because it's not really brought attention to, where they use the same setting as a bunch of other films have.
Mhm.
Like, this person has this really awesome apartment that lends out their apartment for filming and gets paid for it as part of their income because their apartment's so cool, but you don't really notice it because it's not something that they like draw attention to the setting. So yeah, I'd imagine if they find a really cool spot like that underpass, I guess is what it is, or tunnel, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it,
Like I don't remember.
they're gonna go back to it.
I don't remember having like I don't remember observing that or noticing it the only time I saw it, which was like 3.5 years ago. But like maybe because it went immediately from that, like you sort of said, someone used the word visceral before. That moment where she grabs the I didn't know what she was doing. I'm like, oh yeah, she's trying to manipulate the car, she's doing a thing. I didn't know what she was trying to do, and then she reaches for the seatbelt. I'm like, oh shit. Like there's so very little safety that this is going to provide her, because it doesn't seem like it's clicked in or anything, but she's just doing the one thing she can, and then
Hold on to something.
yeah, like it comes and smash, and then I see the scenery. I'm like, oh man, all that just happened. That's great.
Yeah, I honestly didn't notice that it was the same thing this time, but now thinking back after you brought it up, yeah, seems right.
I guess the other thing I would have for, I guess maybe what I call special effects is obviously we're talking about effects in a much different way than we have some of our previous films here. In the terms of like stunt and action choreography and whatnot, I forget where it starts. Somewhere in the parade where she's trying to sneak him out, there's a moment where it at least looks like they constructed a continuous scene. Like from that moment, like the moment they walk out onto the street, nearly until the time that he drowns in the river. And I know there's like cuts hidden in there and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the way that it's made to look is just like you're just following them nonstop. Like there's no cut in the moment to take you from one moment to another.
I feel
Yeah, I
like
think
that's
I'd
more
look for that
into
for direction too.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the same thing.
But with all of the coordination that would have taken from the car chase to the building fight to falling in the river, like all that I mean there's definitely like some effects work in there that needed to bring that all together.
Yeah, because traditionally speaking, especially for something that's like $30 million budget, there's not a like the CG special effects we're all used to talking about in movies like this. They're not really there, and if they're there, they're used for the stuff Josh is talking about, which is hiding cuts that are in the movie. They're using the computer to hide the cuts to make it look like one big long take. And I think you guys already made the comment too that there's no explosions, so there's nothing really explodes. So special effects wise, from what we're used to talking in all these comic book movies, isn't readily apparent. You really have to like look for this stuff in this movie. Which
This had a better building on fire than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
oh, don't you, man? He's just trying every time.
He brings it around every time.
All right, well that's it. Anything final thoughts for special effects? Nothing.
I just was thinking about like she had all that makeup on to look hurt, and then she had to go put makeup on to cover it up to go to her meeting. I just was like that was a funny thought to me. I'm sure that's not how they did it, but it's just like they put all that makeup on and then she's got to put on like 2 more layers to cover it up.
That might be how they did it. I don't know how they would
might
do
be,
it. I mean,
yeah.
they certainly
I'm
didn't
assuming they
actually
washed
beat the
it
hell
off
out of her and then
start
put
over.
makeup on her. You know what I mean?
She's not a character actor, so.
All right, so Andy, where would you like to go next?
I suppose we will go with characters and actors.
Okay, 10 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
Charlize Theron obviously was very good in this. She played her part very well. Her accent was good. She kicked ass. She, did a very good spy role, in my opinion. McAvoy obviously was also very good as sort of like an unpredictable, didn't know where he was going, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Sort of hated him, but I think that's like what they wanted you to sort of hate him, because he was just so chaotic.
Yeah.
And I thought I can't remember, Spyglass, the guy who played Spyglass, was very good as sort of like that very humble, like, just want to save my family role.
Eddie Marson.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I missed him when I run down the cast.
He's one of those like British actors who's in so much.
Yeah,
you
small
can
roles in a bunch of stuff.
Pick him out, yeah. He's with people come up with like some of those actors. Like I'm sure in England he's probably considered a bigger deal than he is here, I would guess, because he's been around forever. But he feels like one of those like glue actors, like ligament actors. Like whenever he's around, like cohees, everything else together.
What's Ron Howard's brother?
Clint Howard.
Yeah, that guy who's just in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say that guy I always remember from The World's End.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Always what he reminds me of when I see him. I'm like, yeah.
The only other thing I can say about, I didn't care for, and he was in it for a very short amount of time, is the character that the KGB kills in the beginning, before you even meet Charlize. I think that whole scene was really, I don't know, unnecessary. It didn't really carry much weight to me through the movie. I don't know if they were trying to connect dots there, but I didn't really see him, aside from Percival being in a picture with him that she finds later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's supposed to be who she was like with or close to. Like that was like her signature. That's the kickstart, I think, for her, right?
Because she had a picture of them together and she sets it on fire at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
But then, aside from that and the picture with him, you don't really get a whole lot of other.
Well, I think that's
information
part
there.
of the story, kind of, because then you're like, well, was she only with him for information like she was with the KGB guy?
Or were they both triple agents? Yeah, like there were.
Yeah, I think
there were
it's
too
more-
many questions in my mind about that and why it was there.
I think it was kind of like
than the payoff
Aeon
for
Flux thing where they just don't explain it, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll try to loop back around to
My
that for
mind's blown.
story. So, anything else for characters, Andy?
it. No.
Ian, anything to go with for characters and actors?
So James McAvoy was great in this, and he actually had a broken hand in this. That's why his character has a cast like throughout most of the film, because his hand was actually broken.
Really, I did not
So
know
they
that.
did a nice way of just blending that into the character, because that's also not in the comic book originally. Like his character doesn't have a cast in that, so they just played with it, and it worked really well, I think, in the film. So obviously he also didn't do as many action scenes as they might have had him do otherwise. Charlize was great in it. Especially because of how many of the scenes you notice she's having to fight in heels, and even with the choreographed nature of it, it's still impressive.
Oh yeah.
To like have to, even if you're switching out of them and stuff, that was really good. Billy Skarsgård was like my favorite person in this film. I loved him. He reminded me like as a better version of like Sick Boy from Trainspotting, like a much cooler nod heroin addict version of that character.
So who did he play in the movie?
He was their spy on the inside, that young kid on like the East German side. His name's Merkel.
It was like
the one
her
that he
contact.
meets on the rooftop. Yeah.
Gets him the fake
I gotcha.
passports. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I really liked him. He felt correct. I liked his haircut. I felt kind of like if he was been born in England, he would have been like a British soccer hooligan guy. But since he's born in East Germany, he's now a spy master. He did a really good job in this, I think. Like that James Faulkner did good at just being a presence. I thought, like, I was like, yeah, that guy's probably important. Yeah, I could see myself, not enjoying like having that man as my boss. what was it? Is it Toby Jones was the other British guy in there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interrogating her.
I-
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked awful. I guess on that hairline killed me. And then his forehead was massive. It just felt like less like a MY6 guy and more like your fucking middle management HR person or something. Like, oh fuck.
I
Isn't
think
that
that's
how he
just
normally
Toby
looks, though?
Jones.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that's just
I
him.
know,
That
but
wasn't it,
I mean that's me just commenting on Toby Jones's look. Sorry, Mr. Jones.
Sorry
And then
about
of course
your face.
John Goodman slayed it, especially the cocksucker stuff at the beginning and at the end. He just did a great job all around.
Always does.
It was John, yeah, he's been in great. He had really liked him in Red State too, just like another kind of different film for him. And this was something fun to see him in and just be like almost like classic Goodman. I'm just like doing pretty awesome, like him eating randomly, like you want a break too? Yeah, he's just eating. He just did really well with what they gave him.
Josh, you want to go take it from there?
I mean, everyone hit a lot of the important points. I don't really know what else there's to say. I don't know. Did anyone mention Sophia Botella's? So I actually really dug her in this, and I wish she actually had a more
She was
integral.
the French spy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish she had a more integral role and a bit more of an expanded role to play. I think if they had spent maybe like 5-6 more minutes on like an extra small scene or two.
Oh, I know what scene you want extended.
Hey-o.
We all.
Can they just
True.
make that movie? Just-
Interweaving her character's importance to either what Charlize needs to do or finding that like
Oh yeah.
Percival had been manipulating her even more and we got that
Oh,
more
yeah.
like that would have been, I think it would have strengthened it.
I think the other thing with her is that I feel like they didn't do enough to show her being like such a greenhorn at the spy game.
Correct.
Like other than like yeah, everyone kind of like people made her pretty early, but like she didn't feel completely out of her element, at times, which it just
Well,
would have
I
like
think-
maybe lean into that more.
I couldn't
or
tell if that was a bit.
maybe
Like if she was just saying that and not actually a rookie.
well, everyone else I think other people had mentioned it too. I feel like
she felt like someone who was a sort of a behind the scenes spy, like who had been promoted to a field agent and was new to
Mhm.
being a field agent.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
You know what I mean? Like she wasn't used to like the double crossing and the action and stuff like that, but she could like wiretap and follow people and do all this other like behind the scenes sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, like the revelation towards the end where you find out, oh, she took the pictures of McAvoy meeting with the Russian guy. Like, that's good to know. But like, yeah, I think her presence and why it mattered to everybody else could have been strengthened and made the story just a hair stronger had we, I hate to say it, like, had we cared about her more.
Yeah. Well, I think it just comes with more time with the character too, like you were saying.
Yeah,
I think
right, and
More,
I
more
don't-
time
I
with
don't-
her would have helped. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think you needed a lot. Just a little, like I said, like one, maybe two small scenes somewhere where she's intertwined there. One thing that I came across also is that I think Ian mentioned the two Bowie songs throughout the score is apparently they approached Bowie about having a part in the movie. They wanted him to be a part of it, and like obviously this came out in 2017. I think I saw that they started shooting in late 2015, and Bowie passed away like the beginning of 2016. So at the time they were getting started, he was always like already too far along with his illness, I'm sure, and had to turn it down. But just knowing that could have been a possibility, and they thought that there was a spot for him somewhere would have been cool. Because I don't think my guess is like they wouldn't have asked him to play himself in some weird way, like hey, please play yourself 30 years ago. Like he would have been a role, and that would have
Yeah.
been fun to see.
Mike, last call. You look like you had something to add.
I was just gonna say about Sophia Botella that she was very distracting. Anytime she was around, and I think that was kind of intentional, and it was played well. I feel like her role was like over sexualized a bit, very intentionally.
Mhm.
And that to me was gonna lean into kind of what Ian was saying about her being a greenhorn, is that she may have been young and new at it, but she knew the assets she had to use and put them to work to distract people and get them off their guard, which seems to have worked a little bit, but she's dead by the end of the movie, so maybe not as well as she would have liked.
Fair. Who hasn't gone yet? Ian, are you up? Did I just do you?
You've never done me.
I'm losing track of who I called on now. I think it's your turn. So we're down to direction and
what's
story.
left? Direction.
Okay. Go for it.
So I think it was pretty well shot. Like we've talked about the choreography some. I thought like there was the shaky cam stuff kind of with it, but I was able to flow and follow all of the scenes. We talked about the car chases. They all went well. Like I understood what was happening in each little step. Like I said, with the music direction, I thought that was good. Like this theme of twos I kept seeing, for me, it impacted the movie in a way. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool that they're using something to help maybe tell the story where you just would notice these things happening multiple times, you know. Like then the thing with her only wearing black and white, like these very opposite colors, I kind of liked. And the only time she doesn't is at the end of the film where she has the red coat on when she happens to be meeting the Russians, which I think is an early signal where they try and get you off guard thing, and she actually does work for the KGB the whole time. And then the only other significant use of color there is when she shoots the one guy's head off and his blood perfectly falls on that girl's lips, the picture of the girl behind him. And like there's just this big blood splatter there. I thought that was just beautiful. Like that was amazing. I paused there and I just looked at it. I was like, this is the one thing Zach could learn. So, like I said, like they did the twos thing a lot. I liked the fact that the Machiavelli quote played a role on the bookshelf when she enters. That's the only book you can clearly read the title of. Like they made points of emphasis to let you catch along on different things, and then just like they showed you that brutality of the KGB where they just beat the shit out of this kid for being a bad dancer. You know, they just absolutely destroy this child because he can't dance. You know, it's just the actual brutality. You feel it coming through, that visceral, like you said, nature of it. And I think it's very well directed. And I think we'll get into the story later. Like, it's good material, but the movie was just missing maybe something. And I'm not sure what that is, but I feel like there was a way to take this to another level that a director of the caliber of, I don't know, maybe a Zack Snyder could have brought that out, you know?
Always got to end there. Josh, what do you got for direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo a lot of what Ian brought up. I think what was successful was the composite of everything, flowing the story through and breaking it up with certain action sequences when you needed it, keeping the intrigue on who's betraying who is trying to find out what secrets, what they're doing in order to find that out from the next person, and how they're, how she's untying the knot the whole time. So I think as we sort of characterized Wonder Woman when we talked about it, where we said there's a lot of strong ingredients there, but everything together in the recipe didn't maybe mesh as well. I think this did the opposite. Like all those things together really worked well, and I was able to enjoy this. I think going back to a part of what we were talking about in an earlier topic, knowing what the story was now, I found myself enjoying the movie a lot more this time, just because I knew what movie I was in for. When I first saw it, I thought I didn't understand that I was in for an espionage spy movie. And now that I knew that, seeing how everything was put together made it seem even stronger.
Okay, I got you. Andy, for direction, what do you got?
Being this is the first time I saw the movie, I'm actually looking forward to seeing it again, because I feel like there are things that I'm going to pick up on the second viewing that I probably didn't on the first viewing. It's been a while since I saw like a spy movie, but I thought there was maybe a little bit of confusion on my part at a couple of parts in the movie, like who was doing what and who was on whose side. Just a little bit, just like uneasiness as to where things were going and who was doing what.
Yeah, I feel like when we get to
I
the
thought-
story, that's what I want to crack open for you as a first-time viewer.
Yeah,
How much you were able to follow and all that kind of thing.
right. So I sort of wish that they did a little, the direction didn't go full on like everyone's betraying everyone. It was a little hard to follow first watch.
Mm. Mike?
As far as like what's been said already, I generally agree. It was well paced. It never felt like it slowed down. They kept you, you know, you were able to continue watching without getting distracted. You know, when it was engaging the whole time, which is, I think, important when you're directing, to keep fairly long movie, you know, held together for that long. Because a lot of the times I feel like spy movies can tend to lose you in that third act. You know, that's where they start to wane. And this only did that a little bit. I would say it didn't really lose anything there for me. The action scenes were well put together, well directed. The chase scenes, same thing. Yeah, I mean, I can't really find any glaring faults. And some of, you know, the umbrella scene I thought was awesome. A very cool idea. It looked very cool on screen and everything. I don't know if that's something they came up with or if it's a scene from the comic that they recreated. I don't know, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thought, or shot, rather, that comes to mind for me is one that is extremely memorable and really well done. I think they do it twice, is the transitions they make from one thing to her getting into an ice bath. And they use kind of like it's kind of a fade cut in at the very beginning of the film when Gascoigne dies into like just a shot of the ice, and you don't know what the hell's going on for a second. Then you realize it's a person getting into an entire bathtub of ice.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a pretty cool shot. And they do a similar thing, getting to Ian's twos again later in the film. It happens again. So, yeah, I mean, all around pretty good on the direction, and no complaints.
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, we talked about like the tone or flavor of the movie, like this dirty neon type of thing. I actually got really into. I thought that fit well, especially after Josh was describing the way the comic looks. I think that fits even more for what I was expecting. David Leitch knows how to direct action. I'll give it to him. Like, if you're coming from a stunt coordinator background and learning choreography and all that stuff, and coming off of John Wick, like that, it's what I wanted from action sequences coming off of John Wick. I think I just expected more of them since this was promoted as a John Wick type of movie. But the ones we got I thought were really cool, especially the one Josh was talking about in the middle that's just cut like one long shot. The stairwell fight that leads outside and all that stuff. That was fucking cool. I feel like the one complaint I had after watching the movie the first time, and it's still there for me, I think, in this one, and it's such a nitpicky thing because I can never do what she does, but in the fight scenes with Charlize, I feel like it doesn't feel as fluid as I wanted it to, especially coming off of something like John Wick. Like, I feel like you can see her counting the beats and the steps in the choreography as she's doing it. It doesn't feel like it's a fluid fight scene. It feels like she's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Like, there's noticeable pauses in between each move, and it's to me it's distracting. I can't like really hammer home on that because it's not something I'd be able to do. I give her all the credit in the world because I think she did a fantastic job with all that stuff that she did. But just for me, it's just a nitpicky thing that stands out. So I think again, coming off of John Wick and the way they did action and Keanu's fluidness of those motions, that's what I expected for this one, and it just felt just a bit below that for me.
Didn't Keanu Reeves have like a background of like some sort of martial arts?
Which could, I mean, I'm sure he trained for all that stuff for Matrix, I know. So he might be coming, using all of that stuff. I don't know how much, if this is her first time doing an action sequence like this and learning this kind of choreography, I give her all the credit in the world because it looks a lot better than anything any of us could do just from scratch. But yeah, I think again, I want to blame the promotion. Like, it was promoted to me as a John Wick movie, and I felt like I was expecting that level of action and stuff like that from it. And like I said, it's just below that for me.
There's a couple different places that I came across looking up the background stuff that said that personally her and Keanu Reeves actually trained together for their respective movies. Like, he was prepping John Wick 2. She was working on this, to the point where they were using the same trainers. They were sparring personally.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes. So like, it was that intertwined. The only quick last note I would say is like a small, I'll say juxtaposition, but I agree with your point, Brian. I also appreciate that there were moments where, like, that you don't get in John Wick, where at the times where, like, she was hurt, there would just be like 15 seconds of her struggling to get up.
Yeah.
And they took
yes.
their time with, I am beat to hell and I just fell back against this door, and and there, to be fair, like, there's not really moments in John Wick where he gets hurt. Sometimes it's because people aren't hurting him, but other times it's because he just gets up a little too easily.
I feel like there are, and maybe they're spread out over, I couldn't tell you which movie they are because they kind of blend together, It points to me. But I think there are portions of that where he does kind of get tired and exhausted. I don't think it's as drawn out as what Charlize and stuff did in the like, at the end of the stairwell fight, they're in the apartment fighting, and both of them are just dragging themselves off the floor because they're just beaten to hell and exhausted. Yes. And I think that lends to the visceral nature that I was talking about too. Yeah. You just feel it by the end of that fight.
Well, and I think part of it's like with wrestling, like, it's a difference between like how wrestlers act at the end of like a 60-minute match compared to a 20-minute match, for the difference between what Charlize does and what Keanu was doing in his movies. So I think part of it with John Wick is he just kind of, like, near the end of those, sometimes you almost feel him shrug it off, the fatigue, and then he moves on. Like, you can almost like physically see him shrug it off, like, okay, let's go.
I think a lot of John Wick 2 is just like headshot, headshot, headshot. It's not like the hand-to-hand stuff as much. So it's a different style of fighting.
Yeah, and
it's like you almost feel like him dust himself off and head into like the next level, like you're playing like a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Mike, last call. Anything?
No, I was just gonna say, with John Wick in the third one, you're seeing him just get exhausted from beating the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just had a stab wound, like, closed up, but he's still just beating the hell out of people, and he's tired from doing it. He doesn't really get beat up that much himself.
Right.
And I will admit, in John Wick 3, by the time he's on like his third or fourth fight, I think with the Asian twins, I'll call them, like, up in the room where he breaks every glass container one after the other. Like, in there, you definitely see him slowly get tired and beat. And so, like, those moments do exist, but I don't think they happen as prolifically as, like, this very gritty, down on the carpet, fight that they portrayed in this film show you. Right. So when you had those moments of, like, look, we're going to take our time and show you, it's going to take them another minute or so to get up and continue this and try to find their strength, because they're both just, like, they're human beings and they're hurt.
Right.
Yeah, and most of the time she's fighting people much larger than her. I don't think that happens very much for John Wick. I've only seen the first Wick, but...
Andy.
You got to wick a lot more, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a spoiler I could give you that
is
definitely off on that, but I'm not going to throw that in here.
All right, last category. Story. Andy, we're going to start with you since you're the first-time viewer for this one. So, again, sort of where I want to lean into this, too, is, like, I know my first watch, came out of this still kind of confused as to, like, who was doing what and why.
Yeah.
So I'm curious where you're at with that.
It took me a while to, like, sit and actually digest this movie, and like I thought about it for a few days afterwards, and I probably still don't have it figured out, honestly. But that's why I kind of want to watch it again, knowing what I've already seen, and, like, you can maybe not remember scenes that happened that make sense now that I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a struggle sometimes to sort of try to piece it together, and I felt like instead of enjoying the movie, I was, like, trying to connect dots in my head.
Yeah.
And it thoughts that I was connecting during like a fight scene, I feel like I wasn't able to enjoy said fight scene quite as much as me. Like, wait, wasn't he with her and she was doing this and watching him, and then he was doing that, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'll admit, maybe these guys can chime in too, that I think a second viewing absolutely helps. I think I enjoyed this much more a second time through.
Agreed.
Yeah, even years later, because I mean, the first time I saw it wasn't in a theater, but it was probably right after it hit rental, and yeah, it still was much easier to follow when you knew the outcome.
Yeah, Andy, I had the exact same reaction as you. Not only, as we've said multiple times, that I just thought I was in for a different type of story. I didn't realize it was espionage, spy thrillers type thing, and then jumbled that with the at times definitely the lack of clarity of who's on whose side, who is trying to achieve what at any time. No, I had the exact same reaction the first time.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to watch a movie where you know it's red versus blue instead of like, wait, are they red or are they like yellow or something? I don't know.
They tried to do that with you. So one of the other key elements of the black and white was the fact that McAvoy's character drinks like whiskey, that very dark liquor, and she drinks vodka, very light, clear liquor. So that white and blackness playing against each other, where it sets up the whole time you think McAvoy is actually Satchel, but he's not. And you see like in the film, like I don't remember if I caught onto this as much, like her actually framing him with the little tape and editing it all together. But I know it is for sure this time. I was like, oh yeah, here's this part, where she's actually framing it, and then kind of playing that inverse where the team on the white side's actually the bad one. I think the story did well in that sense, like, and maybe it's something you catch for a second viewing, but I also think with spy movies, it's okay to be confused. It's okay to not know what's going on. They don't need to just tell you everything up front. I think that's part of the intrigue of watching a spy movie compared to maybe a typical action movie, is that you're not sure exactly what's going on and you're just flowing through it and trying to figure it out, because you're basically supposed to be as lost as Mr. Forehead is in that the debriefing room. You're not supposed to have a clear idea of what the outcome is.
I guess I wish I would have known it was more like that when I had started, because I had the same like, oh, it's just John Wick with Charlize Theron
Mm-hmm.
sort of vibe in my head, and then I'm like watching it and I'm like, wait, oh shit, like I have to remember like who's this guy and what he's trying to accomplish, and it's supposed to, yeah.
So it's kind of funny, even 4 years later, you've basically had the same first viewing experience that the rest of us did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, the only thing where I felt like, and it's not even really a story thing, where really I got caught through a loop, like why did that happen, was during that fight sequence with the stairs and everything, and she ends up in that room. She shoots, like, I forget if it's when she shoots the one guy in the head or something, but they have the confrontation at the front door, and then the guy comes in, and then she's over at the other area with Spyglass, and I felt like the timing, she didn't have enough time to get over there with a bleeding man. That was the only time, like in this rewatch, where I was like, you shouldn't be over there. You went too quickly. But like that's the only one that really stands out to me. Like I said, on the second viewing, I can't, be like, hey, I'm super fucking smart. I knew everything that was gonna happen, because I literally also saw this like last summer, so it's only been like 5-6 months for me. So this is still pretty fresh from when I had seen it the first time. And I think it all clicks, maybe a lot better the second time, because you know what's happening, so you can pay attention to like, why this person's saying that this time? Why is this happening? Because you know the outcome of it. It makes it flow differently.
So we might chop into some time here to do this, but I'm starting to think more and more that, let's assume someone's listening this far into the podcast that is a first-time viewer like Andy, who has a good handle on who was on what side and doing what, and can try to summarize what the hell this story was. I mean, this is a little bit more in depth than the 60-second summary. Like, we figure out by the end of the movie, Charlize is Satchel. So which side was she on, and who was she playing against each other? I'm still kind of fuzzy.
She's on the Americans, so she's
CIA.
She's actually all three, but her real job is CIA. That's who she's like. The actual one she's not betraying is CIA.
So she was pretending to be MI6 and pretending to be KGB all at the same time?
Well, KGB, she was just an asset. She wasn't actually part of the KGB. She was just feeding them information and getting information back. She wasn't a KGB officer or something.
Okay.
She was working there. And then everyone else is pretty much on one side. Like the only, I think, other confusing thing is James McAvoy's character meeting with that Comrade Bremovich.
Yes.
And he's offering him information to try and keep the Cold War from not continuing. That's his play on it. He's like, well, we have the spyglass. I'm going to get it back to the British. But if I give him some information that they can use, they won't keep coming after it, and we can all get out of here with our heads. That's what he wanted at the end. So that's why
Okay.
it seems like he's playing against his own interest, and his plan's screwed if Spyglass gets out, because Spyglass is going to end up with the Americans, and they'll have their own copy of the list, and not just the Brits will have one. That's why he goes to kill Spyglass, is because he wants it to only England, Britain, has the list. But if Spyglass makes it out alive, the Americans will also have a copy, because at that point he knows she's Satchel because he read it.
Right. I was trying to figure out too. Is he trying to turn her in or like sell her out at some point too? Now that he knows that she's Satchel.
Well, with Spyglass, he tried to get her killed. They were both supposed to die.
Okay. All right.
Like he set that up for them both to die, and that's why he's pissed off about it.
Okay.
Like he says that thing to John Goodman. I forget exactly what he says to him, where he's clearly upset she's alive, and John Goodman's like, "I know you are, you fucker. Wait till I get this debriefing. That'll be some next level shit." But like that was their whole thing. The French lady is just caught up in the mess.
Yeah, that's the
She's
sense
there
I
to
got.
try and
Yeah.
advance French interests, but she's not doing a great of job, and then kind of develops these feelings for Charlize, and that's why she leaves her the envelope to try and help her. But she also knows that McAvoy's kind of a dick, and like they said, he went feral, you know. He's basically turned Berlin into his own fuck kingdom,
Yeah.
and that's what he's using Berlin for at this point. And then this list is his way to get out. As he said, you can't unfuck something that's been fucked, so he's like, I'm just gonna get the fuck out of here with my list.
Oh, see, I think I interpreted like he had no intention to leave. I thought
Yeah,
he liked the
that's-
way things were.
That's
He
my.
liked
he
being
did,
the
but
seller
it-
of information.
But it was ending because the wall was coming down. He read the he read the tea leaves, or however you want to say it. Berlin was no longer going to be Berlin.
Okay.
He
It
read
was-
the writing
game
on
was
the
up.
wall.
Huh?
He read the writing on the wall.
That would have been better than what I said.
All right, so thank you. That gives a little bit more clarification on what the hell was going on. So hopefully that helped set the stage for anyone that was, half as confused as we were.
I mean, I think it's definitely worth a rewatch too if you're confused about it. I think it really does improve on a rewatch, and maybe this time, now that I didn't notice this, but now you can watch and see if you can count the beats of Charlize Theron during fight scenes.
I admit watching the first time thinking, okay, at some point they're setting this up for the reveal that McAvoy is Satchel. He's the double agent. He's the one selling out the people he's supposed to be working for. And I almost even would have believed that if he himself, there's something about just before she shoots him, she calls him Satchel. She refers to him as he's alive as Satchel, and he says to her, he replies, "Oh, that's how you're gonna spin it." And if that one reply had not been there, even when she goes back to the Russians after that, and the KGB calls her Comrade Satchel, I could have thought, oh, she very cleverly took out McAvoy, who is Satchel, made these people believe it's actually her to get in on their good graces.
I see.
In order to that, but no, I think that then falls apart with his line. It was her the whole time, but after this second viewing, I even still thought by the end, is she really American? Even after all that, is she actually working for the CIA? Like, they had put so much doubt, they had like incepted me, and
Mhm.
I even by that point, like, she works for the CIA. But the British think she's a British citizen who's a member of MI6, and she convinced the KGB defectors, or whoever they really are, that she's an asset. Like, that's some multi-layered shit.
And I feel like too, the second time I watched it, you can see when McAvoy's looking at the list, like you can see him putting the pieces together. He's looking up her name and all the other aliases that she has. Like, that's something I missed the first time, that he knew from there that she is Satchel, and continues to play along with her game the whole rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm. But he is still like, I almost had to pause to think, oh wait, if she's really Satchel, is she is her execution of him a further cover up for another end? And my conclusion was no. Like McAvoy was still double crossing people. Like he had still gone like off the reservation,
Yeah.
regardless if he was Satchel or not.
Yeah, I think killing him was more to cover her ass.
I think it was, but I think he was like I took it as there was still a nefarious goal that he had. Like he was not still like carrying out orders. He was still like he still had his own agenda.
Okay.
That's how I took it.
But I mean, she kills him because he knows who she is, and she can't have that loose end.
See, I kind of
That's why.
I got the vibe that Goodman never really cared for Percival, and I almost think that maybe Percival was an objective of hers all along.
Oh,
Certainly possible.
See,
yeah.
that's it. We're going to watch it a third time.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other aspect, they tip their hand a bit, but you don't realize it on your first watching. But she has a meeting with Goodman's character in the middle of this movie, in the middle of her recounting all this. That if she's not with the U.S., why the hell would she be meeting with him at that point?
I think he tells her like the MI6 sent
They
him
called
in,
him in.
yeah, to get in
and
touch with her.
and to cover that, she still
But-
continues to talk in a British accent, as it's just the two of them standing there.
Right, but what I didn't understand was the newspaper that he pushes to her that she takes, and he gave her a code. He gave her something that MI6 didn't know, and it made sense.
See,
at
I
the
didn't
end
even
of the
think
movie.
I saw that and didn't put two and two together. That's a good catch,
Yeah.
Andy.
Two,
Yeah.
though. You caught that.
My only issue I had with the story personally, was why are so many spy movies about the spy list?
It's
I
the
feel
one thing
like
every
so
spy
many-
gives a shit about.
Yeah, like so many times in spy movies we just end up with like the knock list or the whatever list or the list of all the spies, and we have to go after that, and it just seems like a very heavily used theme. I don't know if I'm a fan of the theme, but its execution here was done pretty well, with the focus being on a triple agent, I
I
guess.
feel like I'd rather see
helps.
that than like every spy agency or every spy you have a movie based on that suddenly goes rogue. Like the last 3 James Bond movies, he's gone rogue. Fucking just do your job.
I mean, it's a genre that doesn't have as much room to work, I guess. Like, there's not a lot of wiggle room in overall plot.
Well, plus, I mean, those stories have been around for a century. You know,
Just
a lot
spy
of modern,
stories.
Yeah, a lot of modern novels, especially since like World War One. You know, they've mined a lot of it, so we are kind of left deduced to some tropes at this point. So, if if someone figures out how to reinvent it really well, then hey, we'll be in for a treat when they do.
That's true. All right, so we're gonna sort of wrap up our discussion for the movie. Around the Horn, does this movie hold up? And sort of, do you think it ever held up? Granted, it's only 4 years old, but those are the questions we try to end with. So, Andy, first time viewing, does this movie hold up? Do you think it ever held up?
I think it holds up.
All right, Mike.
Yeah. I don't have anything more to say. But yes.
Josh.
Yes, and I would actually go as far now as to put it into the underrated and underappreciated category.
Nice. Ian.
So, in the 6 months since I originally saw this, so much has changed with the world, and we're in a far different place. We're no longer in a world where we're all locked up. We're now in a world where we're all locked up and making millions off of stocks. So, this movie really resonated with me when they are trying to tear down the Berlin Wall so that the people in East Berlin can also understand stocks, and that really helped me appreciate the film even more.
Really trying to timestamp us here for this discussion. Yeah, I think
No one will get that joke by the time this episode comes out.
that's right. Yeah, it's gonna be so yesterday's news. I
feel
think
like-
this movie does hold
Go
up.
ahead.
I would agree. Andy, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think given some time, I think this movie will be a very good cult classic.
Yeah, if it's not already, I agree.
Like, is it nothing with it they do because it's a timepiece that ages the film, you know?
Yeah.
You can't get out aged because it's set in modern times. It just kind of resonates, you know, still. And I think that Cold War era is always going to be kind of popular for spy stuff, especially because you have so many countries involved. It's a very busy time. I think it'll work in that sense for a while. It could, you know.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
I think they found a good sweet spot too, putting it right, like literally on the cusp of the destruction of the wall. A lot of Cold War era stuff I feel like just ends up happening in the 60s. You know, it's gets centered around Cuban Missile Crisis or maybe like the 70s, or it's just very generic. You know, oh, the Ruskies, darn Reds. But this like putting up, you know, side by side with those ending events that sort of ended the era right there is it's a point in that timeline that I don't think has been utilized all that much. And I think what works well for this, that will help give it longevity, is that really a lot of what's happening in the story is independent of the rest of that. Like there's still the Cold War power struggle and, you know, country against country, etc., and those concerns, but this, like, everything else is the backdrop of the story. It just happens to be where it's happening. It's not dependent on it.
Right. All right, so let's finish it up with ratings out of 10. Who wants to go first? Mike, you want to go first? Out of 10?
Sure. 7.75.
All right. Josh?
7.
Andy?
I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay. Ian?
6.
I feel like that was lower than I expected for you.
I liked the film, but it even on the second rewatch, like at the beginning of it, it felt average. It felt like, yeah, this is fun, but it really picks up in that second act, or I don't know what act it is. I don't care about that shit. It really picked up in the parade scene. Like that's when it goes into overdrive, and that's when I'm having a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this film, but it's average.
Okay.
You know,
You
it's
did-
not something. This is no Spawn. You know.
You did mention earlier that you just felt it missed some sort of thing, but you couldn't
Yeah.
put your finger on it.
Like I could have given it a 7. Like a 6 or 7 feels right. 6 comes out of the mouth. Like if it had that one other thing, this is probably an 8, but it didn't. And I think that's what happens when you don't have that Snyder touch.
Yeah, I think I was still kind of debating where I was going to land with it as far as out of 10, and I think you guys started hitting around where my gut was telling me to go anyway. So I think 7's a solid number for me. I think I'm going to give it a 7. And again, not that I can really point at anything to be like, this is what sucked, but sort of like what Ian said, it's just something isn't there to just put it over the top. It's very good. I will definitely watch this again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not like top tier for me. And we were actually sort of talking before we recorded. I didn't realize it until we were talking about it, but this is our 10th Rewind Theater episode, so I think I'm going to try to put Ian on the spot a little bit here. Ian, can you tell us what everyone's average rating is for the 10 movies we've done so far?
Yeah, like so their individual average.
Yeah.
So Andy he has missed 2 films. So this is out of 8. This does not include Bloodshot and Spawn, which I could drastically alter his scores based on everyone else. But his average is literally 7.
Okay.
Oh,
not
like
bad.
even.
Yeah, his is the only one that has no decimals. Brian comes in at 5.6.
Oof.
The third highest of the scores. No, sorry. You're 4th highest. Never mind. You're not cool anymore.
Second lowest.
Yeah.
Hey, I have no negatives. Positive vibes.
Oh, sure. My bad.
Then
Everyone gets
comes
a medal.
the correct score is where the average is 6.72. That's me.
Okay.
Yeah, 6.72. Then we have Josh, who just doesn't enjoy good film at 5.53. And then Mike at 5.69. Now,
Nice.
Josh's also doesn't include Watchmen because wasn't here.
Hey, I gave you a score, and on the
You
in
gotta
the
be on the
chat-
show.
in the
I
chat-
didn't
hey,
include it.
I said in the chat that it goes on the spreadsheet. That
You said a lot of things in that
That's a
chat.
proxy.
None of them ended up on the spreadsheet. Our highest rated film remains Watchmen with a 9.18. Josh's score would have lowered that score, but not enough to bump Constantine with an 8.75 into second place. So even with a score included, it wouldn't have changed the difference there. And then this was a tight one. Atomic Blonde finished with a 7.15 for our fourth highest film, which means unfortunately the third highest rated film is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at 7.35.
We're on the board,
Even
boys.
though-
We're on the board.
Even though I gave that my lowest score ever of a 3.5, lower than Bloodshot.
Well, that was another thing I was going to ask too. What is everyone's lowest rated movie?
Andy's lowest is Venom with a 4. Brian's lowest is Swamp Thing with a 2.5, which seems absurd reading.
I stand
Mike's-
by it.
Oh, this is me. My lowest is obviously Turtles, and then Bloodshot was a 3.7. Josh's God, oh my God, he has 3 films tied for lowest with 4s: Spawn, Bloodshot, and Astro Boy. Mike's lowest is 2.5, and that is Bloodshot. So Bloodshot sucks. An average of 3.43, a full point lower than any other film.
All right, so what is everyone's highest rated movie so far?
Andy's is tied for. Oh, never mind. His highest is Constantine with a 9. Brian is tied with Watchmen and Constantine at 9. I gave Watchmen a 10. Perfect film. Josh's highest is an 8.3, and it's Constantine, higher than Turtles. And then Mike's highest rated film is Watchmen at 9.7.
Nice. Okay.
He's been getting really into these decimals recently. I don't know. You guys don't see the list, so you're not seeing it like I am.
Solid
I'm
numbers, and
just
all of a
doing
sudden
it to
just
fuck
decimal,
with him.
decimal, decimal,
It's
decimal.
fun to give him more decimals to work with. That's
I almost didn't include the 7.5 tonight. I rolled my eyes when you said it.
well,
All right, so we'll try to every 10 we'll try to revisit that and see where we land, just to get some averages, see what creeps up to the top and the bottom and all that stuff. I think that could be fun.
Oh yeah,
That's what she said.
Hopefully, will be.
All right, so that concludes our discussion for Atomic Blonde. It is now time to spin the Wheel of Fate.
The Wheel of Fate.
So
Wheel
on the
of-
wheel right now are two franchises that are still there: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Swamp Thing. Our 4 standalone movies right now are Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, Supergirl. The Kitchen was added last time, and added for this one is 2008's Speed Racer. So I gotta get the wheel up for these guys so they can see it. All right, you guys can see the wheel, correct?
yep.
Can you make it bigger?
No, you ask that every time.
Yeah, the
but no.
consummate question.
That's what she said.
Yeah, the wheel
You
is the
say that
size that it
every
is.
time.
You gotta deal with it.
So I'm pulling for Swamp Thing because I want a new franchise, and I really just want to know what Swamp Thing 2 is.
I
I
actually
feel like
mean,
our
there's
earlier
only one
idea
thing
of
I'm
it
rooting
being a
against.
shot-for-shot remake with just an extra swamp boat explosion would be a better film than what we will see.
Is that the only other movie for Swamp Thing?
yes,
Yes.
Supposedly
Okay.
there's 2, yeah.
yeah.
That's also the reason I would like to see another franchise that's not the MCU get on here, so we get a franchise we can also finish on.
I actually agree with Ian. I think I would prefer that as well. It brings some fresh fun to the wheel.
Andy,
going
Mike, any
Valerian.
guesses? Valerian?
Just not the kitchen.
Just not the kitchen.
We're gonna have to
not
watch it
Valerian.
eventually.
I kind of want Speed Racer
Lies.
now that it's on there.
Did you say lies?
I said lies.
Uh,
I can't see it. It's too small.
There it is.
Yes! Yes!
Swamp Thing. We're
Son
gonna
of
finish
a
the
Swamp
franchise.
King!
Swamp Thing Part 2.
God damn
Is
it.
it Part 2 or is it just 2?
I think just
I
2.
think it's the swampiest too.
Even
This
swampier.
This movie's gonna be like a
Swamp-
Band-Aid. Let's just get it over with and get it out of here. That's kind of where I'm feeling right now.
Swamp
In the
Thing
video
2.
you put to Facebook, I need you to edit in John Cena's entrance music where he says, "I am the franchise" as soon as Swamp Thing's picked.
John Cena.
It's actually called The Return of Swamp Thing.
Oh, I thought it was the swampiest of asses.
That might be the
That's
subtitle.
the subtitle.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
that's
that's the
the sub.
foreign
That's the sub.
translation. How it turned out.
Yeah, the Chinese subtitle. All right, well, that's what we have to look forward to for the next time.
I'm reading the parents' guide on the film.
No, dear Lord.
Just are you checking to
This
see
one's
if,
rated
if there's a
PG-13. The last one was
extended
PG
edition?
and it had boobs in it. So
I
don't know
gotta
what
see
to
if there's
expect.
a European cut.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's where
Two
we're going to
young
end this
boys
one
read
before
a
we get too
nudity
far into Swamp
magazine.
Thing before we even see the movie. So if you've enjoyed the show, please support us. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to share us on social media. You can follow, subscribe to keep up with the show. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher. Hopefully anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us. You can find us on Facebook. Search Bry Guy and his Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. Feel free to email us, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. It's live. It'll work. I won't see it, but it's there. Hit us up on Twitter @BGSuperFriends. That we'll see. Next time we go live, I plugged it at the top of the show, but if we ever do a live show again, you can hit us up on Twitch for @JediBryGuy. That's where we'll go live whenever we do these recorded on Twitch.
Godzilla.
I'm sorry. What was that? What?
Something about Godzilla, I think.
Oh yeah, there's a good chance if in a couple months Godzilla and Kong might have to be. I've had requests for that live show already.
I've had requests for it.
From the one person I know
Ian
that
has
has really
made
been
requests
texting me
for
like,
it.
when are you gonna go live again? When are you gonna go live again? That's the one he wants to see. Chris, if you're listening, this is for you. Your shout out on the episode.
I said I'd bring it up.
All right, so that's it for us. On behalf of Andy, Josh, Ian, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Shout out Shimple Nation.
I take no notes.